Hey everyone, I'm Nathaniel Rufflejants, and this is Prime News. So our first story today, the lead story, deals with Pokemon Go Fest. Yes, folks, Pokemon Go Fest is coming back to Chicago. Now, to understand why that's a little bit controversial, they had a Pokemon Go Fest last year in Chicago, and it was a complete disaster. Such a big disaster that they actually settled a lawsuit quite recently to reimburse not only people who bought tickets, but travel expenses, including flight and hotel. So, yeah, needless to say, Niantic had to pay quite a bit of money to try to sort of make that all go away. Well, they are back this year on July 14th and 15th, and John Henke, one of the main people over at Niantic, talked to IGN about last year's disaster and how they're going to avoid that happening again this year. Here's what he had to say. GoFest was a challenge for us, there's no doubt. As the person who stood up on stage and directly faced the consequences of having the technical challenges, nobody felt it more strongly than I did. Particularly with all of you in the press there to witness that with us, and all of my board members, all of our partners. It was one of the most challenging days of my professional career. We're coming back at it this year with all that experience from the Pikachu Outbreak event in Yokohama, Japan, and it's exciting to go back to Chicago. I'm going to be there, and I'm looking forward to it. We will be lining up things across the city of Chicago as well, as that's what's happening in Lincoln Park, to encourage that kind of flow that we resorted to at the end of the day last year, as we were trying to figure out how to make a diving catch there in the afternoon. The evening after last year's Go Fest in Chicago, despite the fact that the day had been so trying, was kind of a golden hour there. As people were out across the city, the weather kind of let up on us. There was a bit of rain a lot of the day, but a lot of the evening it was nice and kind of cool, and people were there out in the streets of Chicago having fun playing Pokemon Go. That's the part of last year that we want to try to recapture this year. All the major carriers are deploying COWs, which are cells on wheels. So there will be mobile network hotspots from all the major carriers set up in such a way that we believe we will have full coverage, efficient coverage, for everybody throughout the park. And again, our understanding and our ability to communicate with our partners exactly what the network traffic looks like, and really technically profiling it and communicating it on a technical level. We're much better at that than we were a year ago. So that's been the formula that we used last year in Yokohama and Tottori and other places to really work closely with those network providers. There are going to be themed areas for different Pokemon types, so we think we're going to create a really fun, interesting environment for the people to move through and to really experience the full breadth of that park. It's kind of long, narrow park, and we're taking advantage of it, so I'm excited about that on-the-ground experience is going to be like there, but we do think that as people have moved through that, there will be an intention for people to dissipate at the end and go off and explore other parts of Chicago. All I can really say about this is it almost felt like last year needed to happen for them to be prepared this year, but then this year hasn't happened yet. So, I don't know. I would love to just take John Henke and Niantic and everyone else at their word that it's going to be awesome this year, but it's hard to trust them after the disaster of last year. So we'll just have to see. I know they've ran other festival-type events in other countries and have seen success, but we're talking about the one area that it was a big disaster. So I'm hoping they have it all sorted out. Definitely the fact that there's all the major carriers are going to have cell towers on wheels throughout the event is certainly going to help. People thought that needed to happen last year, but then there was also some contract disputes last year that the public kind of sort of ignored as part of the one of the issues with the event was that they wanted all the major carriers, but they couldn't get them because essentially they didn't know what the data traffic was going to be like. That was kind of the big caveat is we don't actually know what the traffic's going to be like, and cell providers wanted to know in order to provide more and more of those cell on wheel mobile hotspot towers. Anyways, folks, that's all I got for the Pokemon Go event. You guys let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Are you going to be attending this year? Are you going to try to give it one more go, or are you just soured on the whole thing? Are you done playing Pokemon Go? Millions of people are still playing it every day. I still see people in my little town out playing it whenever I go to the park and stuff. So it's still very much a popular game on your phone. But yeah, we'll see what happens with GoFest this year in July. Our second topic is actually kind of cool for me personally, because it says that Nintendo is looking for a new level designer for the Zelda series, and the Zelda series is my favorite franchise of all time. So this does two things for starters. One, obviously it means they're trying to expand the Zelda team, or at least add one new member, if not several, over time. Two, it means there's a new Zelda game in development, which of course there's been a new Zelda game in development probably since 2016, if we want to be honest, because Breath of the Wild was probably done back then. But this is the first time we've seen mention of anything that confirms a new Zelda game's in development, right? Like, they always talk about, yeah, we were going to make a new Zelda eventually, but this is like, oh, now we're hiring for a new Zelda. So that's kind of cool. And the responsibility for whoever they hire will be to create events, dungeons, fields, and enemies from design phases to implementation. It is required that you have game planner experience on console games, and it is required that anyone they look at must be able to communicate in Japanese. Obviously, you'll be working in Japan, kind of a given, but that's just one of those things they want to throw out there. They are not saying you need to be Japanese to apply. So I'm actually going to put a link down to the application process in the description below if you would like to apply, if you think you qualify, if you have the necessary experience. I'm sure you've probably already heard about this job if you do have the experience, but if you haven't, well, there you go. Here's a chance to work maybe your dream job of working at Nintendo in Japan, making a Zelda game of all things. Like, just crazy to me. I'm excited just to know a new Zelda game's coming. Obviously, there always is a new Zelda game coming, but now I know they're actively working on developing it. And looking for someone that's in a pretty important role. We're talking enemies. We're talking dungeons. Like, those are two massive things that they're looking for a designer for. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see how that turns out, especially since they're hiring someone new, right? So it's a new face for some of this stuff. So we'll have to see how that turns out whenever we get a new Zelda game. Moving on, our third topic actually deals with Splatoon 2 because somebody was able to, a YouTuber, I'll have a link down to their channel and stuff in the description. Somebody on YouTube was able to hack the Octolings and make them playable via multiplayer matches in Splatoon 2. Crazy! Absolutely crazy. Like, the Octolings are playable? What? Like, the data must have been available somewhere in an update, at least for the character models. And essentially, the YouTuber doesn't give any info on how they were able to pull it off. They just put up two videos, one showing a female and a male version, both of them going at it multiplayer. Not everything is functional. As an example, there's missing sound effects. It's kind of why, if you actually watch the original videos, it's just music playing in the background because it's missing some key aspects that would be there when the DLC launches. But apparently in some sort of patch recently, they must have put in the character models, and that is how this has probably been all made possible. So yeah, that's a thing. Like, someone out there in the world is able to play the Octolings in multiplayer matches just because they can and want to. It can't be used online or anything, but cool. I mean, that's it. It's just a really cool thing. I mean, again, the hacking community is always doing crazy things like this, giving us a chance to see kind of sort of what it might look like. Of course, in these matches, they're not that serious at fighting each other, but still, it's very interesting to see what that might look like in a match. Anyways, in other news, Raphael won the latest Splatfest, much to my chagrin. That was Team Leo. Didn't do my part well enough, apparently, and Raphael won. Yes, I'm going to take... That's right, folks. All you Leonardo fans out there, throw it all on me. It's my fault for sucking at Splatoon 2 that we did not win Splatfest. It's all my fault. But on positive news, at least for me, Ninjara won the latest ARMS Party Crash. She faced off against Springman. I love Ninjara, my favorite character in the game. It is my main in ARMS, and so there you go. That one is the 9th ARMS Party Crash, to be specific. Now, here's a very interesting piece of news. Developer Night Dive, and they are a development group that ran a Kickstarter, has support for it, so like they can do this. They ran a successful Kickstarter campaign to release a remake of System Shock, which is an older game. A game I highly enjoyed. I owned it on PC. Well, they are bringing it to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And then they had this to say in a Q&A session on Discord. Absolutely, Night Dive is now an authorized developer for both PlayStation and Xbox. And with the refocus on style and scope, we will also be able to port the game to another very popular platform. Now, it was originally coming to PC. So PC's already out there. So it's talking about Xbox, PlayStation. The only other popular platform out there is, well, I guess 3DS, or more likely, Nintendo Switch. So without saying it, probably because it's going to be this thing that gets unveiled in the Nintendo Direct or unveiled at E3, because Nintendo likes to take semi-major announcements like this and save it for a Nintendo exclusive event. But yeah, it sounds like they're essentially confirming that System Shock is coming to Switch. It's a rumor, but this comes from the horse's mouth. So read into it whatever you want. We'll have a link down to where you could read all this information. But yeah, kind of cool. I was a big fan of System Shock back then. System Shock 1 and 2. I really enjoyed 1 the most, and that's the one that they're remaking. So we'll have to see how this goes. And for those wondering, NetDev obviously has permission to use the IP and all that stuff. This isn't going to be one of those fan-made projects that goes down the drain. Like, no, this is legit. These are skilled, high-quality developers with experience doing this. So I can't wait. And I'll also put a link down to the Kickstarter as well if you want to maybe go pre-order a copy or whatever the case may be. Obviously, they don't have any Nintendo orders up yet because they haven't officially announced it. But hint, 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 another popular platform when it's already coming out on all the other popular platforms. You do with that information what you will. Last but not least, I thought this was funny. So you guys remember Twitch Plays Pokemon, right? I think it's even still going on to this day. It's essentially where you go on this live stream on Twitch, people enter commands into the chat, like the public chat, and then those commands are executed in the game. And this is obviously all being done through AI, it's all done through custom programming, etc., etc. And it gets a little crazy because you'll have a bunch of people saying commands at once, and it reads them in sequential order, and skips a whole bunch of commands, and things just get nuts, right? Well, they were able to beat Red and Blue and several Pokemon game sets. The Pokemon games actually work very well for something like this because of kind of the grid-based movement patterns and all that stuff, and it being a turn-based RPG versus an action game. Well, speaking of action, Breath of the Wild is now a thing happening. It is Twitch Plays Zelda, and they are playing Breath of the Wild right now. And here's what I can tell you. It has been going on for several hours, maybe even multiple days at this point, and they have made next to zero progress. It's one thing to still be on the Great Plateau. It's another to not have any shrines completed. It's another to only really have a couple things that they just happen to happen upon. They've died many, many times already. There's only one autosave in there, which means they really haven't progressed anywhere else to get to more autosaves. That tower's not open up. Yeah, it's kind of hell on earth, which should be expected considering live-action combat with delays in commands and several commands coming at once, leading to you probably dying a ton. Imagine if they were playing this in master mode. Oh my gosh. But nevertheless, the Twitch community is trying to come through. I think every time I check it, there's at least over 200 people watching. Lots of commands coming in. I doubted that they would beat Pokemon, and they pulled it off. So you know what? My hat's off. They'll probably find a way to beat Breath of the Wild. It might take all year, but they will find a way. When there's a will, there's a way, and it's somehow going to happen. So if you'd like to check that out, I have a link down to the stream in the description as well. Again, Twitch Plays Zelda, playing Breath of the Wild. Just a crazy concept to me. And that's it, folks. We are done with today's news. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It feels good to be back on this wonderful Monday. Yes, it is the 7th, and yes, I'm aware that a certain rumor video I posted last week said we were supposed to get like Nintendo Online news today. Well, I mean, it hasn't happened yet. Doesn't mean it won't happen. I'm guessing it's not going to happen. I'm guessing the rumor was a bunch of bollocks. I kind of said that at the time, but you know what? This was the big day, and nothing happened. So we'll just have to move on, right? We have plenty of E3 coverage coming your way. Starting tomorrow, we have our Nintendo Prime podcast, Road to E3, Episode 1. That is landing tomorrow, so please look forward to that. And believe it or not, that episode actually features some of your guys' comments in there, so it's going to be amazing. Anyways, folks, I'm Nathaniel Robojets from Nintendo Prime, and if you like this video, you know what to do. And if you dislike the video, hit that dislike button. Subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.